In Chapter 6.4, we look at adding, subtracting, and multiplying radicals. So let's go ahead and start with adding. Adding radicals is a lot like adding expressions with variables. You can treat the radical part of the expression a lot like a variable. So if I'm looking at this expression here, 2 radical 3 plus 9 radical 3, it's a lot like saying 2x plus 9x, and because I have like terms, I can just combine them together to be 11 and whatever x is. In this case, our x is radical 3. It wouldn't work if we didn't have the same exact radical part of the number. For instance, if this were the cubed root of 3, then I wouldn't be able to combine those two, because it would be more like adding 2x plus 9y. Those are two different things, and like terms, we can't combine them. But I do have like terms. So essentially, it's like saying 2 radical 3 plus 9 radical 3 is, well, 11 radical 3. And that would be the answer there. Let's take a look at subtraction. Subtraction is no different. And as you can see here, I don't off the bat have the same radical number. It's like I'm saying 2x plus 3y. But the difference here is that I can understand the square root of 27 differently, right? The square root of 27 is the same as saying, well, let's rewrite it. 8 radical 27 minus 3 radical 3. 27 is 9, so it's the square root of 9 times the square root of 3 minus 3 radical 3. And the square root of 9 is, well, that's just 3, right? So basically I have 8 times 3, which is 24, and then that 3 is left underneath the radical there. And when I subtract 3 radical 3 from that, I get 21 radical 3, and that would be my answer there. Let's take a look at another one. Well, here we are adding two radical numbers, and again, our radicals do not match. They are not the same radical. So let's see what happens if I were to simplify these. Well, the square root of 4, well, that's just 2, right? So the first number is 2 plus the square root of 18. Well, that's 18 is 9 times 2, and the square root of 9 is 3. So that's 3 radical 2. So that'll be 2 plus 3 radical 2. And here we don't have like terms, so to speak. We don't have a radical for the 2. So this is as simple as we can get. This is as far as we can get adding that radical expression. In the next couple of problems, we are going to take a look at multiplying and see how that works. Here we have the expression radical 3 times the quantity negative 4 radical 3 plus 6. And this works just like problems we already know how to do. We would have to distribute that. So the integer part is going to just stay out in front of the radicals. And now I have radical 3 times radical 3. And as we know, we can just put that under one radical. And radical 3 times radical 3 is radical 3 squared. Now we will multiply the radical 3 times the 6, or the positive 6. So that will be a plus 6 times radical 3. Well, what do we have here? Radical 3 squared simplifies to 3. So in essence, what I've got is negative 4 times 3 plus 6 radical 3, or negative 12 plus 6 radical 3. And we are done there. Now, let's have a little bit more fun with our distributing ability. Let's take a look at the quantity radical 3 minus radical 2 times the quantity radical 3 plus radical 2. And let's see how that works out a lot like something that we are already familiar with, x minus y times x plus y. Now, when we do this, we know that we have x squared minus y squared. And let's just see, do you think it'll come out exactly the same or any different, the result of this difference, sum and difference of the same terms as this one does? So let's see how it works. Remember, we have to distribute to both terms, and then let's do this part in blue, distribute the negative radical 2 also to both terms. So let's see how that works out. Radical 3 times 3 is radical 3 squared. It's much like what we've got here, but it's the same thing. So we've got radical 3 squared, and we've got plus radical 2 times 3. And then when I distribute the negative 2, radical 2, then I have a minus radical 2 times 3 minus radical 2 squared. So let's see how that works out. Radical 3 squared, that simplifies to just 3, so we'll put a 3 there. Now, plus radical 6 minus radical 6, guess what? Those are going to eventually just go away. And then we have minus radical 2 squared is just 2. So what we're looking at is 3 plus 0 minus 2. So in a way, we did have our difference of squares, because radical 3 squared is 3, radical 2 squared is 2, and 3 minus 2 we can still simplify. That equals 1.